Hey there, world changers! It's Emily Grabatin here, and we are talking about perfectionism. The first video, we talked about the desires and doubts behind our perfectionism. What are we trying to achieve? That perfect picture that we see in our mind, and then that gap when we try to make it reality. And my biggest desire with that is just that you feel understood and connected, that someone gets why you're striving for perfection. Even if you know all the things you should know, that doesn't fix it, right? In this video, we're going to talk about 9 mindset habits that have helped me release perfectionism. And so the first one, it's going to touch on something that's nothing new to you, because it starts with understanding that you are not perfect. I know, see, you already know this. And I did too when I was in my 20s, and this first hit me hard, right? Because I tried to be good my whole life. And when I guess you could say when I screwed up bad enough that I couldn't cover it over, I couldn't just gloss over it, when it was glaring me in the face and I needed forgiveness from God and from myself and from some others, I had to admit at a soul heart level that I wasn't perfect. And that was a little bit devastating for me. And I think there's something in us that even if we know with our head and we could tell someone, oh, I'm not perfect, there's still part of us that wants to guard our heart and our soul from not realizing this. Because at our core, we long for these things, right? To be accepted and understood. But you need to be able to acknowledge it at that vulnerable level in order to do step 1, which is accept soul level grace. Accepting soul level grace is one of those things that is so freeing. It's one of those core things that I don't know how you can do your call without understanding this fully. I don't know how you can carry your dream forward being fully you without realizing it comes with the whole package and needing to accept that grace, because living with your call and your dream, being in relationship with people demands a give and take. And even though we want to show our best self and have it all together, what we really want is also connection, to be loved. And that doesn't happen without first accepting grace. And so that leads me into the second mind step, is understanding the reason, finding the reason that you need perfection. The two are very tied together, but it wasn't until I fully realized that I am not perfect and that I received grace, accepted it from God, from myself, from others, that's when I realized what I was needing most from perfection. And it really was, at the time, I needed approval. I grew up in a great family that was loving and supportive, and while it wasn't perfect, I would say it was pretty healthy, and I did have a good role models and love and approval, but my heart was still longing for those in different ways, for connection. I'm still a people pleaser, and so all of these things were what was behind my perfectionism. And that's something that I see we often do in guarding our hearts from perfectionism, or realizing that we aren't perfect. I've seen, 4 ways we kind of shield ourselves from that. And that's performance, just trying harder, doing it better, right? That works for so long. People pleasing, right? As long as everybody's happy, then it gives me the illusion that things are perfect. And shame, right? Sometimes it's just cloaked in, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not enough, I'm not cut out for this. And we just, we turn I made a mistake into I am the mistake. And that's a level of perfection either, because it's not true. And the fourth thing is blame. So we try to deflect it away from saying, shielding our heart from realizing I'm not perfect. We blame, oh, that's just the way I am. Or, well, it didn't work out because of this, or because of that person, or because of, this family dynamic. And so when you dig past that and you get to that vulnerable place of realizing you aren't perfect and you accept that grace, then you can admit, well, this is what I need most from it. And then you can tackle that from a different point of view, right? You don't have to find that approval from what you're trying to achieve through perfection. You can add another dynamic to that. Number 3 is recognize the difference between perfection and excellence, right? There's still what's connected to that desire, that beauty, that perfect picture, that the clarity of your message and your heart being fully understood and you connecting with the people that you want your message to reach. There is a difference between a striving for excellence and perfection. And excellence is moving towards something, right? It's creating something beautiful. It's the pride of an experience or accomplishment that you or someone else can enjoy. It's the satisfaction of saying, I did it, and it's being resourceful and creative with what you have. Perfection is an avoidance thing in its way. It's doing something, fear of avoiding the pain or the shame or the guilt of something. And so you can still create a culture in your life of improvement and bettering and learning and growing, absolutely, without it being perfectionism. And there's freedom in that. So number 4 is believing that your accomplishments are not your identity. And this was big for me. And it's so, our whole society reinforces that our worth is in our accomplished, because those are the questions, right? What do you do for a living? What does your business do? What have you done today, right? We celebrate the things that we've done. And so then we measure ourselves by how well we've done something. I didn't do it well enough, or someone else can do it better, therefore I am not enough. And that's just simply not true either. You don't even have to waste time trying to, because those are such common statements, right? I almost think that it's a prerequisite. If you are a world changer, if you are stepping out into your call, I almost feel like you're expected to have those. And so you just need to know that is so normal. But you don't actually have to waste energy trying to not believe it or argue it away or quoting a million affirmations a day trying to make it go away. Those things might be helpful in a time, but you can also just diffuse that statement by accepting it and saying, you know what, I'm not enough for this. Maybe someone else can do it better. It takes the power away. You take that expectation with you. And what I've had to say is, you know what, maybe I'm not enough, but God called me to do this. This dream won't go away from me. It's a part of me. I have to do this. And so I'm going to do it anyway, whether someone else can do it better, whether I'm cut out for this or not, whether I screw it up, I just have to do this, whether I fail or not. And it's taken me a long time to get to that point, but the people that I've seen live in this space and in my own life too, it's liberating when you can say that, when you don't have to be locked by the fear of lack and not enough. And you just be the best of who you are and do the best that you can in that moment. So number 5 is focus on the why instead of the end goal. So it's great to have a picture of where you're heading. That is, almost an expectation, right? You need to know where you're going. What is your dream, and have some clarity in that. Absolutely. But focusing on the why is even more important, because the picture, like we talked before, your picture perfect it's a container for that dream and that passion that you have. It's just something to help propel you forward and reveal things along the way. But you're going to learn. You don't know everything that's going to happen in that path. And so just focusing on the why you want to do it helps you get connected with the heart of it. So you are connected with when something turns out differently but accomplishes what you want, then you get to celebrate that instead of being surprised and taken back by the expectation that didn't quite go the way you expected. So this is helpful in all kinds of things, whether you realize you're more stressed and you've taken on more in a day than you can, and you're like, okay, this project is way too big for me to handle, and so I'm going to keep stripping it down to the bare essential of why do I want to do this. And it gives you your minimum level of success in order to take that one step forward, and it takes away the overwhelm. It helps you diffuse arguments, right? You find yourself, hashing out or discussing or arguing over something with a teammate or a family member, and you don't even know what you're arguing it about anymore. When you have the heart of what is most important here, then you can let all the little things, the things that bother you, strip away. There's so many more examples, and we can definitely talk about that. Shoot me a message if you have some areas in your life where you're like, okay, this totally helped me. Focusing on the why instead of, how I was right or what I wanted to happen or it looking exactly the same. We can share that with me. And so number 6 is use failures to deepen your relationships. And remember how I said before, I mentioned Brene Brown said this was true in my own life too, that what we want most and what a lot of perfectionists fear most is a lack of connection, of being disconnected, right? Of, whether it's the guilt, the shame, this isolation of I'm not perfect, therefore I don't want to be in someone else's space, or I'm not sure I can trust them or allow them into my space. And so this is where you face that head on, and you use failure to deepen your relationships. And you've seen this before, right? The people that you connect with are the ones that they're going to be straight up. They're going to be honest. They wear their true colors. As perfectionists, we take failure pretty hard, don't we? And when things don't turn out the way we expected, either from our own standards or someone else's, we want to hide, right? We want to hide. We want to put the mask on. We want to quickly fix it all. There has to be safe places in your life where you can just be real with your clients, real with your audience, real with your readers, your team members, your family. And yes, there are people that may not be wise, and there's a time and a place of when to be real and when that serves the purpose. But you can use your failures or missing the mark just to be you, just to be authentic, and it will deepen your relationships along the way, and people will learn and grow from you. And so if you need that permission to do that, then I encourage you to be able to try that out in a safe relationship, in a safe place, with a small area. So number 7, and we'll go through these at the end, that's prioritize what's most important. And so that could be an action habit, and it can be a mindset habit, but prioritizing what's most important, again, it ties to you want to be perfect at everything you're trying to tackle. And so you've got a huge list in your head, all of these things that you have to do, and the more you're in that space, the more things you think of, and it just overwhelms you, and you freeze and you shut down and, watch Netflix for the evening, right? Like, that's just realistic. So how do you move forward in that state of overwhelm? Well, again, it's stripping it down to what is most important for this season and for the big picture. Which step, which things today, and some people say you can only handle accomplishing 3 big things in a day. Other people say of that 3, they only usually end up tackling 1. Donald Miller says that as well. I found that true as well. So releasing yourself from those expectations and picking what is the one big thing that I need to tackle today that will move me forward towards my dream, move me forward to my calling, move me forward into who I want to be, and then work on releasing the rest of that. And yes, very simple to say that, but that's how you get to work from peace and being instead of that frenzy and chaotic stressfulness of just trying to get things done and you never actually make it through your whole list, and then you've handled the guilt and the shame at the end of the day because you didn't accomplish it all. And yes, this is a frequent exercise for me that I need to keep going back to. But I would much rather work that one thing, even if it's a small step. I would rather work from a state of peace than trying this frenzied, distracted state in accomplishing a pile of things. So number 8 is to face fear head on. And this is just where's fear dictating your decisions for you, and then basically choosing to ignore that, choosing to not ignore it. You're kind of doing a dance and taking it with you, but it's just not letting fear own you. And so maybe you've heard the TED Talk. Ashanda, I forget her last name, but there was a year of saying yes. Well, I had that in my own season when I decided, you know what, I don't want fear to own what I'm doing anymore. And so I'm going to say yes to any opportunity I see that fear tells me not to. So some things, they just didn't serve me well or they were random. But if fear popped up and said, oh, I can't do that, or that's not comfortable, then that was my reason for saying yes. So this allowed me to speak in groups when I would have shied away before. It prompted me to go on a blind date when that was like, hell no. That's a story for another day. It gave me opportunities just in small ways and bigger ways that helped me grow as a person, to give me the capacity I needed to move through perfectionism. And it redefined my success. My success was saying yes. It wasn't getting it right the first time. And that was a huge progress for me. Number 9, the last one. So this is the one that's going to kind of tie it all together. So our first one was accept soul level grace. Number 2 was find the reason you need perfection. 3 is recognize the difference between perfection and excellence. 4 is to believe that your accomplishments are not your identity. Number 5 is focus on the why instead of the end goal. Number 6 is use failures to deepen your relationships. Number 7 is to prioritize what's most important to you. 8 is face fear head on. In 9, the 9th mindset habit of a recovering perfectionist is to embrace the process in the journey, right? We want an arrival point. We want that thrill of arriving at a destination. But I love Christmas because it's not just about Christmas Day. It's about the whole month leading up to it. Whatever you want that day to be, and if you choose not to get carried away by all the commercialism and the frenzy, or whatever you enjoy about that season, it's about the whole process leading up to it, not just that day, right? And so you start with the end in mind, and that's what prompts you and steers you on your journey. But the arrival point, whatever you get to, you appreciate so much more when you do have the challenges and the struggles and those learning experiences along the way. So you redefine failure as learning experience to say, okay, this is a defining moment for me. It's shaping me to be who I am, and I'm going to see this as an adventure. That is huge, and that was a huge part for me in just seeing it different. It wasn't just getting the goal done and finishing it, although I am a task-driven person and I do love that accomplishment. in the big picture, it is just loving the process. Or, if not in the moment, appreciating it later and pulling it all together and seeing it as the whole journey rather than, okay, I got here. And that serves for the big picture, the big calling dream that you have, and it serves for the little mile markers along the way. So, join in the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Which mindset habit resonates with you the most in this season, in this week, with where you're at right now? I hope these help. I'd love to hear how you think this fits with where you are right now. Join the conversation with me in the Made for More community. And we'll be back next week. All right?